Question 1. What is the primary role of the Florida Real Estate Commission, FRDC? A. To provide financing for real estate projects. B. To enforce ethical practices among builders. C. To regulate and license real estate professionals. D. To mediate disputes between buyers and sellers. Answer: C. To regulate and license real estate professionals. Explanation: the primary role of the Florida Real Estate Commission, FRDC, is to regulate, control, and license real estate professionals in the state, ensuring that they adhere to legal and ethical standards. Question 2. Describe the requirements for maintaining an active real estate license in Florida. A. Annual license renewal with no additional requirements. B. Completion of continuing education and timely license renewal. C. Membership in a national real estate organization. D. A minimum number of property sales per year. Answer: B. Completion of continuing education and timely license renewal. Explanation: to maintain an active real estate license in Florida, licensees must complete required continuing education courses and renew their license in a timely manner, ensuring they stay up to date with industry knowledge and legal changes. Question 3. Explain the concept of title in real estate and its significance in property transactions. A. Title refers to the physical deed of the property. B. It's the architectural style of a property. C. Title is a legal document proving property ownership. D. It's the insurance policy for the property. Answer: C. Title is a legal document proving property ownership. Explanation: in real estate, title refers to the legal concept of ownership rights in a property. Having a clear title is crucial in property transactions, as it proves the seller's right to transfer ownership. Question 4. What are the key elements that must be present for a real estate contract to be legally binding in Florida? A. Written agreement, consideration, and witness signatures. B. Verbal agreement, property inspection, and earnest money. C. Written agreement, competent parties, lawful objective, and consideration. D. Public announcement, legal age, and property appraisal. Answer: C. Written agreement, competent parties, lawful objective, and consideration. Explanation: for a real estate contract to be legally binding in Florida, it must include a written agreement between competent parties, have a lawful objective, and involve consideration, something of value exchange D. Question 5. Scenario: a buyer discovers undisclosed water damage after purchasing a home in Florida. What are their legal options? A. Accept the condition as is. B. Seek compensation or rescission through legal action. C. Request a state inspection. D. Apply for a government grant for repairs. Answer: B. Seek compensation or rescission through legal action. Explanation: if a buyer discovers undisclosed water damage after purchasing a property in Florida, they may have legal grounds to seek compensation or rescission. Canceling of the sale due to non-disclosure of a material defect. Question 6. How does the principle of highest and best use impact property valuation in Florida? A. It has no impact on property valuation. B. Determines the most profitable use, affecting the property's market value. C. It only applies to agricultural land. D. It's a guideline for property tax calculation. Answer: B. Determines the most profitable use, affecting the property's market value. Explanation: the principle of highest and best use impacts property valuation by determining the most profitable and feasible use of the property, which can significantly affect its market value. Question 7. Define escrow and its role in real estate transactions in Florida. A. A type of mortgage loan. B. An insurance policy for real estate transactions. C. A neutral third party holds funds or documents until the transaction conditions are met. D. A government tax on property sales. Answer: C. A neutral third party holds funds or documents until the transaction conditions are met. Explanation. In real estate, escrow refers to a legal arrangement where a neutral third party, an escrow agent, holds funds or important documents related to the transaction until all conditions of the sale are met. Question 8. What constitutes illegal discrimination in housing under the Fair Housing Act in Florida? A. Choosing tenants based on financial status. B. Discriminating based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. C. Preferring long-term over short-term tenants. D. Selecting buyers based on their bid amount. Answer. B. Discriminating based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. Explanation. Illegal discrimination in housing under the Fair Housing Act includes any discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status in the sale, rental, or financing of housing. Question 9. Explain the process and importance of conducting a title search in Florida real estate transactions. A. It's a survey to determine property boundaries. B. A title search checks the property's tax history. C. Examines public records to confirm the property's legal ownership and identify any lines or claims. D. It assesses the property's market value. Answer. C. Examines public records to confirm the property's legal ownership and identify any lines or claims. Explanation. Conducting a title search is crucial in Florida real estate transactions as it involves examining public records to confirm the legal ownership of the property and identify any lines, claims, or encumbrances that might affect the sale. Question 10. What are the legal implications of a breach of fiduciary duty by a real estate agent in Florida? A. Increased commission rates. B. Mandatory continuing education. C. Legal and financial liability, including potential loss of license. D. No significant implications. Answer. C. Legal and financial liability, including potential loss of license. Explanation. A breach of fiduciary duty by a real estate agent in Florida can lead to serious legal and financial liability. The agent may face lawsuits, financial penalties, and even the loss of their real estate license. Question 11. Scenario. A Florida property is sold with an undisclosed easement. How does this affect the new owner's rights? A. The easement is void after the sale. B. It limits the new owner's use of certain parts of the property. C. The new owner can remove the easement at will. D. No effect, as easements are personal agreements. Answer. B. It limits the new owner's use of certain parts of the property. Explanation. If a property is sold with an undisclosed easement, it affects the new owner's rights by limiting their use of certain parts of the property. Easements are property rights that remain with the land, not the owner, and typically grant use or access rights to others. Question 12. Discuss the concept of homestead exemption in Florida and its impact on homeowners. A. It provides a discount on home insurance. B. Exempts homeowners from all property taxes. C. Reduces property tax liability for primary residences. D. Only applies to agricultural properties. Answer. C. Reduces property tax liability for primary residences. Explanation. The homestead exemption in Florida is a legal provision that reduces the property tax liability for homeowners on their primary residence. It offers a deduction from the property's assessed value, lowering the taxable value and thus the amount of property tax owed. Question 13. What is a 1031 exchange and how is it used in Florida real estate? A. A method for exchanging investment properties to defer capital gains taxes. B. A standard home buying process. C. A way to transfer real estate licenses. D. A process for changing zoning classifications. Answer. A. A method for exchanging investment properties to defer capital gains taxes. Explanation. A 1031 exchange in Florida real estate is a tax deferral method used when exchanging like-kind investment properties. It allows property owners to defer capital gains taxes that would otherwise be due on the sale of a property, provided they reinvest the proceeds in a similar property. Question 14. Describe the differences between a joint tenancy and a tenancy in common in Florida. A. No significant difference. B. Joint tenancy includes the right of survivorship. Tenancy in common does not. C. Tenancy in common is only for commercial properties. D. Joint tenancy requires family relationships. Answer. B. Joint tenancy includes the right of survivorship. Tenancy in common does not. Explanation. The key difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common in Florida is the right of survivorship. In joint tenancy, upon the death of one owner, their interest automatically passes to the surviving owners. In tenancy in common, each owner's share can be inherited or sold independently. Question 15. How do zoning regulations affect property use and development in Florida? A. They have no impact on property use. B. They dictate the types of structures that can be built and their uses. C. Zoning only applies to commercial properties. D. They regulate interior design choices. Answer. B. They dictate the types of structures that can be built and their uses. Explanation. Zoning regulations in Florida play a crucial role in determining how properties can be used and developed. They specify the types of buildings that can be constructed, their uses, residential, commercial, industrial, etc., and other development standards. Question 16. Explain the significance of the Truth in Lending Act, TILA, in Florida real estate. A. It regulates real estate commissions. B. It requires clear disclosure of lending terms and costs to protect consumers. C. It sets fixed interest rates for mortgages. D. Only applies to commercial lending. Answer. B. It requires clear disclosure of lending terms and costs to protect consumers. Explanation. The Truth in Lending Act, TILA, is significant in Florida real estate as it mandates lenders to provide clear and transparent disclosure of the terms and costs of loans to consumers. This act ensures that buyers are fully informed about their financial obligations in a mortgage transaction. Question 17. Scenario. A tenant in Florida breaks a lease agreement early. What are the potential consequences? A. No consequences. Tenants can leave any time. B. Loss of security deposit and potential liability for remaining lease term rent. C. Immediate eviction notice. D. Mandatory purchase of the property. Answer. B. Loss of security deposit and potential liability for remaining lease term rent. Explanation. If a tenant in Florida breaks a lease agreement early, they may lose their security deposit and could be held liable for the rent due for the remaining term of the lease. However, landlords are also obligated to mitigate damages by attempting to re-rent the property. Question 18. What are the requirements for a legally enforceable deed in Florida? A. The deed must be notarized and recorded. B. Only a signature of the seller is required. C. A deed must include the property's price. D. The deed must be approved by a real estate attorney. Answer. A. The deed must be notarized and recorded. Explanation. For a deed to be legally enforceable in Florida, it must be properly executed with the signature of the grantor, seller, notarized, and then recorded in the county where the property is located. This process ensures the legal transfer of property ownership. Question 19. How does Florida law regulate advertising by real estate professionals? A. No specific regulations. Advertising is self-regulated. B. It requires all advertisements to be in English only. C. Requires truthful, non-misleading ads and disclosure of professional status. D. Only allows advertising on specific platforms. Answer. C. requires truthful, non-misleading ads and disclosure of professional status. Explanation: Florida law regulates advertising by real estate professionals by requiring that all advertisements be truthful, not misleading, and clearly indicate the professional status of the advertiser, for example, licensed real estate agent or broker. This ensures transparency and protects consumers from deceptive advertising practices. Question 20. Describe the steps involved in obtaining a mortgage in Florida. A. Contacting a realtor, skipping pre-approval, and making an offer. B. Pre-approval, property selection, loan application, underwriting, and closing. C. Paying a deposit and signing a mortgage contract. D. Bidding in a mortgage auction. Answer: B. Pre-approval, property selection, loan application, underwriting, and closing. Explanation: The process of obtaining a mortgage in Florida typically involves getting pre-approved by a lender, selecting a property, submitting a loan application, going through the underwriting process to assess financial stability, and finally closing the deal where the loan is finalized and disbursed. Question 21. What rights and responsibilities do landlords have under the Florida Residential Landlord and Tenant Act? A. Rights to increase rent any time, no responsibilities. B. Responsibilities for property maintenance, rights to timely rent payment. C. No specific rights or responsibilities. D. Only responsible for exterior maintenance. Answer: B. Responsibilities for property maintenance, rights to timely rent payment. Explanation: Under the Florida Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, landlords have the responsibility to maintain the rental property in a habitable condition and have the right to receive timely rent payments. They are also required to comply with all applicable health, building, and safety codes. Question 22. Explain the legal concept of adverse possession in Florida real estate. A. Acquiring title to property through long-term unauthorized occupation. B. The right to possess property after a legal dispute. C. A method of transferring property between family members. D. Possessing property for short-term rental purposes. Answer: A. Acquiring title to property through long-term unauthorized occupation. Explanation: Adverse possession in Florida real estate is a legal concept where a person can acquire title to a property after occupying it without the owner's permission for a specific period under certain conditions, such as open, notorious, continuous, and hostile use. Question 23. Scenario: A real estate agent in Florida is found guilty of misrepresentation. What are the potential consequences? A. A small fine. B. Loss of commission on the sale. C. License suspension or revocation, fines, and possible legal action. D. Mandatory ethics training. Answer: C. License suspension or revocation, fines, and possible legal action. Explanation: If a real estate agent in Florida is found guilty of misrepresentation, they may face serious consequences, including the suspension or revocation of their real estate license, fines, and potential legal action for damages caused by their misrepresentation. Question 24. How are property taxes calculated and assessed in Florida? A. Based on the property's purchase price. B. According to the property's size and location. C. On the assessed value determined by the county property appraiser. D. Fixed rate for all properties. Answer: C. On the assessed value determined by the county property appraiser. Explanation: In Florida, property taxes are calculated based on the assessed value of the property, which is determined by the county property appraiser. The assessed value takes into account factors such as market value, use, and exemptions. Question 25. Describe the process of foreclosure under Florida law. A. Immediate eviction of the homeowner. B. A judicial process requiring court action to repossess and sell the property. C. The lender takes possession without court involvement. D. Homeowner has to pay a fine to avoid foreclosure. Answer: B. A judicial process requiring court action to repossess and sell the property. Explanation. Foreclosure in Florida typically involves a judicial process where the lender must file a lawsuit in court to repossess and sell the property due to the homeowner's failure to make mortgage payments. Question 26. What is the purpose of a comparative market analysis, CMA, in real estate, and how is it used in Florida? A. To determine the highest possible rent for a property. B. To compare different mortgage rates. C. To estimate a property's value by comparing it to similar properties. D. Only used for commercial properties. Answer. C. To estimate a property's value by comparing it to similar properties. Explanation. A comparative market analysis, CMA, in real estate is used to estimate a property's value based on the analysis of similar properties in the area that have recently sold, are currently on the market, or were on the market and did not sell. It helps in determining a competitive listing price or offer. Question 27. Scenario. A buyer in Florida is interested in a property in a flood zone. What disclosures and considerations are legally required? A. No disclosures required. Buyer must research independently. B. Mandatory flood zone disclosure and information on insurance requirements. C. Disclosure only if the property has previously flooded. D. Only disclosure of evacuation routes. Answer. B. Mandatory flood zone disclosure and information on insurance requirements. Explanation. In Florida, sellers are legally required to disclose if a property is located in a flood zone. This includes providing information about past flooding, potential risks, and insurance requirements, as it significantly affects the property's insurability and value. Question 28. Define due diligence in the context of a real estate transaction in Florida. A. A buyer's responsibility to pay on time. B. The process of thoroughly investigating a property before purchase. C. The seller's duty to disclose property defects. D. A formal assessment by the state. Answer. B. The process of thoroughly investigating a property before purchase. Explanation. Due diligence in a Florida real estate transaction refers to the buyer's process of conducting a thorough investigation and assessment of the property before finalizing the purchase. This includes reviewing legal documents, inspecting the property, and ensuring there are no hidden legal or physical defects. Question 29. What are the legal requirements for forming a valid real estate brokerage relationship in Florida? A. An oral agreement between the broker and client. B. Written agreement specifying the terms and scope of the relationship. C. A handshake and verbal commitment. D. Brokerage relationships are not regulated in Florida. Answer. B. Written agreement specifying the terms and scope of the relationship. Explanation. In Florida, forming a valid real estate brokerage relationship requires a written agreement between the broker and the client. This agreement should clearly specify the terms, scope, and obligations of the relationship, ensuring clarity and legal compliance. Question 30. Scenario. In Florida, a tenant discovers toxic mold in their rental unit. What are their rights and the landlord's responsibilities? A. The tenant must clean it up themselves. B. The landlord is responsible for remediation. Tenant may withhold rent until resolved. C. The tenant should move out immediately without notice. D. Toxic mold is considered normal wear and tear. Answer. B. The landlord is responsible for remediation. Tenant may withhold rent until resolved. Explanation. In Florida, if a tenant discovers toxic mold in their rental unit, the landlord is responsible for remediating the issue. The tenant may have the right to withhold rent or terminate the lease if the landlord fails to address the problem in a timely and effective manner. Question 31. Explain the importance of the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA, in Florida real estate transactions. A. It regulates the size of real estate signs. B. ensures transparency and fairness in the closing process of real estate transactions. C. Sets fixed commission rates for real estate agents. D. Governs rental property management. Answer: B. Ensures transparency and fairness in the closing process of real estate transactions. Explanation: the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA, plays a crucial role in Florida real estate transactions by ensuring transparency and fairness in the closing process. It requires lenders to provide borrowers with timely disclosures of the nature and costs of the real estate settlement process and prohibits certain practices such as kickbacks or referral fees. Question 32. What considerations must be taken into account when buying a property within a homeowners association, HOA, in Florida? A. The color of the property. B. HOA fees, rules and regulations, and the association's financial health. C. The number of pets allowed. D. Proximity to schools. Answer: B. HOA fees, rules and regulations, and the association's financial health. Explanation: when buying a property within an HOA in Florida, important considerations include understanding the HOA fees, the rules and regulations enforced by the association, and the financial health of the HOA. This knowledge is crucial as it impacts the cost of ownership and living conditions. Question 33. Describe the legal implications of a breach of contract in a real estate transaction in Florida. A. Minimal impact, as contracts are flexible. B. Potential legal action for damages or specific performance. C. Automatic termination of the transaction. D. A fine payable to the state. Answer: B. Potential legal action for damages or specific performance. Explanation: a breach of contract in a Florida real estate transaction can lead to significant legal implications, including legal action for damages incurred due to the breach or a court order for specific performance, compelling the breaching party to fulfill their contractual obligations. Question 34. Scenario: a property owner in Florida wants to subdivide their land. What are the key considerations and legal requirements? A. No special considerations or requirements needed. B. Zoning laws, approval from local authorities, and potential impact on property value. C. Only the consent of the neighbors is required. D. A standard flat fee for all subdivisions. Answer: B. Zoning laws, approval from local authorities, and potential impact on property value. Explanation: when subdividing land in Florida, key considerations include compliance with local zoning laws, obtaining necessary approvals and permits from local authorities, and understanding how the subdivision might impact the property's value and utility. Question 35. How does Florida law regulate the use and disclosure of lead-based paint in real estate transactions? A. No regulations on lead-based paint. B. Mandatory removal of lead-based paint before sale. C. Disclosure of lead-based paint for homes built before 1978. D. Only applies to commercial properties. Answer: C. Disclosure of lead-based paint for homes built before 1978. Explanation: Florida law, in alignment with federal law, requires sellers of homes built before 1978 to disclose the presence of lead-based paint. Buyers must be given a pamphlet on lead hazards and have the option to conduct a lead inspection. Question 36. Explain the concept of net listing and its legality in Florida. A. It's the standard listing agreement in Florida. B. Net listing is illegal, involves setting a desired net amount for the seller. C. A marketing strategy for luxury homes. D. Mandatory for all commercial property listings. Answer: B. Net listing is illegal, involves setting a desired net amount for the seller. Explanation: net listing agreements, where the agent keeps any amount over a set net price as their commission, are illegal in Florida. This type of listing can create a conflict of interest and is considered unethical as it may not align with the seller's best interests. Question 37. Scenario: A Florida property is being sold with a lion for unpaid property taxes. What impact does this have on the sale? A. The lion is transferred to the buyer. B. The sale cannot proceed until the lion is paid. C. No impact. The buyer can negotiate the tax amount. D. The property is automatically auctioned by the state. Answer. B. The sale cannot proceed until the lion is paid. Explanation. If a Florida property is being sold with a lion for unpaid property taxes, the sale cannot legally proceed until the lion is resolved. Typically, the unpaid taxes must be paid, often from the proceeds of the sale, before the property can be transferred to the new owner. Question 38. What is the role and function of the National Association of Realtors in Florida real estate? A. Regulates and licenses real estate agents. B. A trade organization that sets ethical standards and provides resources for real estate professionals. C. Manages the state's multiple listing service, MALS. D. Only represents commercial real estate agents. Answer. B. A trade organization that sets ethical standards and provides resources for real estate professionals. Explanation. The National Association of Realtors, NAR, is a trade organization that represents real estate professionals, including those in Florida. It sets ethical standards for its members, offers educational resources, and advocates for the real estate industry at various governmental levels. Question 39. Describe the legal protections for buyers under the Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act in real estate. A. Buyers can return a property within 30 days. B. Protection against deceptive, unfair, and fraudulent practices in real estate transactions. C. A mandatory home warranty for all purchases. D. Fixed pricing for all real estate services. Answer. B. Protection against deceptive, unfair, and fraudulent practices in real estate transactions. Explanation. The Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act provides legal protection to buyers in real estate transactions by prohibiting deceptive, unfair, and fraudulent practices. This includes protection against misleading advertising, fraudulent representations, and other unethical practices. Question 40. Scenario. An investor is interested in purchasing a foreclosed property in Florida. What are the key steps and considerations in this process? A. Direct purchase from the homeowner. B. Researching property, understanding the foreclosure process, and bidding at auction. C. Obtaining special permission from the state. D. Foreclosed properties can only be bought by licensed agents. Answer. B. Researching property, understanding the foreclosure process, and bidding at auction. Explanation. When purchasing a foreclosed property in Florida, key steps include researching the property's condition and history, understanding the legal foreclosure process, and often participating in an auction or bidding process. Potential buyers should also be aware of any liens, occupancy issues, or other legal complications. Question 41. What are the implications of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, for commercial properties in Florida? A. ADA does not apply to commercial properties. B. Requires accessibility accommodations for persons with disabilities. C. Only applies to new construction. D. Mandates free public transportation access. Answer. B. Requires accessibility accommodations for persons with disabilities. Explanation. The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, has significant implications for commercial properties in Florida. It requires that these properties be accessible to persons with disabilities. This includes provisions for wheelchair access, adequate parking, and accessible restrooms. Question 42. Explain Florida's laws regarding the disclosure of a property's death history in a real estate transaction. A. Disclosure is mandatory for all deaths on the property. B. No requirement to disclose unless asked by the buyer. C. Only deaths in the last 5 years must be disclosed. D. Disclosure is required only for violent deaths. Answer. B. No requirement to disclose unless asked by the buyer. Explanation. In Florida, there is no legal requirement for a seller to voluntarily disclose a property's death history unless specifically asked by the buyer. This includes natural deaths, suicides, or homicides that occurred on the property. Question 43. Scenario. A real estate developer in Florida wants to build on a protected wetland. What environmental regulations must be considered? A. No regulations apply to private land. B. Only local zoning laws. C. Federal and state environmental protection laws. D. Only need to consider building codes. Answer. C. Federal and state environmental protection laws. Explanation. Developing on protected wetlands in Florida is subject to stringent federal and state environmental regulations. Developers must consider the Clean Water Act and state-specific regulations and often require permits that demonstrate the development will not harm the wetland ecosystem. Question 44. Describe the process for challenging a property appraisal in Florida. A. Filing a lawsuit against the appraiser. B. Appealing to the county property appraiser or the Value Adjustment Board. C. No process available. Appraisals are final. D. Requesting a reappraisal for a fee. Answer. B. Appealing to the county property appraiser or the Value Adjustment Board. Explanation. Property owners in Florida can challenge a property appraisal by filing an appeal with the county property appraiser's office or the local Value Adjustment Board. This process allows for a review and potential adjustment of the property's assessed value. Question 45. What constitutes a legal and binding electronic signature in Florida real estate transactions? A. Any typed name in an email. B. A scanned image of a handwritten signature. C. An electronic signature that meets specific legal standards and intentions. D. Electronic signatures are not legally recognized in Florida. Answer. C. An electronic signature that meets specific legal standards and intentions. Explanation. In Florida, a legal and binding electronic signature in real estate transactions must meet certain criteria, including the clear intention of the parties to sign and authenticate the document electronically in accordance with state and federal e-signature laws. Question 46. Scenario. A property in Florida is discovered to have an encroachment from a neighbor's fence. What are the potential remedies? A. Ignoring the encroachment as it's minor. B. Negotiation, mediation, or legal action to resolve the encroachment. C. The encroachment becomes the property of the encroaching neighbor. D. Mandatory removal of the fence by the state. Answer. B. Negotiation, mediation, or legal action to resolve the encroachment. Explanation. When a property in Florida has an encroachment, such as a neighbor's fence extending onto the property, potential remedies include negotiation with the neighbor, mediation to find a mutually agreeable solution, or legal action to enforce property boundaries. Question 47. How does Florida law address the issue of radon disclosure in real estate transactions? A. Mandatory testing for radon before any sale. B. No requirement for radon disclosure. C. Disclosure of known radon risks or provision of radon information pamphlet. D. Disclosure only for properties in certain areas. Answer. C. Disclosure of known radon risks or provision of radon information pamphlet. Explanation. Florida law requires sellers to disclose any known radon risks in a property or, alternatively, provide buyers with a state-approved informational pamphlet about radon. This requirement is part of ensuring informed decisions in real estate transactions. Question 48. Explain the role of a title insurance company in a Florida real estate transaction. A. To provide a mortgage loan to the buyer. B. To insure against losses from defects in the title. C. To conduct property inspections. D. To set the property's sale price. Answer. B. To insure against losses from defects in the title. Explanation. In Florida, A title insurance company plays a crucial role in real estate transactions by providing insurance that protects buyers and lenders against losses due to defects in the title, such as liens, encumbrances, or title disputes. Question 49. What are the legal responsibilities of a real estate broker in handling client funds in Florida? A. Brokers are not allowed to handle client funds. B. Investing client funds for profit. C. Promptly placing client funds in a non-interest-bearing escrow account. D. Transferring funds directly to the seller. Answer. C. Promptly placing client funds in a non-interest-bearing escrow account. Explanation. Real estate brokers in Florida have a legal responsibility to promptly place client funds, such as earnest money deposits, into a non-interest-bearing escrow account. This ensures the safekeeping and proper handling of client funds separate from the broker's personal or business funds. Question 50. Scenario. A historic home in Florida is up for sale, but it's in a state of disrepair. What are the buyer's considerations regarding restoration and preservation? A. Restoration is optional based on the buyer's preference. B. Considering restoration costs and compliance with historic preservation guidelines. C. Demolishing and rebuilding a modern structure. D. Only cosmetic changes are allowed. Answer. B. Considering restoration costs and compliance with historic preservation guidelines. Explanation. When purchasing a historic home in Florida, especially one in disrepair, the buyer should consider the costs of restoration and the need to comply with specific historic preservation guidelines and standards, which may dictate the types of materials and methods used in the restoration process. Question 51. How is agency established in a real estate transaction in Florida, and what types of agency relationships are recognized? A. Only through written contracts, single agency, transaction broker, and no brokerage relationship. B. Verbally agreed upon at the first meeting. Only single agency is recognized. C. Agency is automatically assumed with the first contact, dual agency and transaction broker. D. Through a handshake agreement, multiple types including dual and designated agency. Answer. A. Only through written contracts, single agency, transaction broker, and no brokerage relationship. Explanation. In Florida, agency relationships in real estate transactions are established through written contracts. Recognized types of agency include single agency, transaction broker, and no brokerage relationship. Each type of agency defines different levels of duty and responsibility to the client. Question 52. Describe the legal requirements for property disclosures in a Florida real estate transaction. A. Disclosures are optional and based on the seller's discretion. B. Mandatory disclosure of all material facts affecting the property value. C. Only structural defects need to be disclosed. D. Disclosure of property size and age only. Answer. B. Mandatory disclosure of all material facts affecting the property value. Explanation. In Florida, sellers are legally required to disclose all material facts that could affect the value or desirability of the property. This includes any known defects or issues with the property that are not easily observable. Question 53. Scenario. A Florida homeowner wants to sell their property, which has an in-ground oil tank. What environmental disclosures are required? A. No disclosures are required for oil tanks. B. Disclosure of the oil tank's existence and condition. C. Only disclose if the oil tank is currently in use. D. Provide a history of oil usage. Answer. B. Disclosure of the oil tank's existence and condition. Explanation. In Florida, if a property has an in-ground oil tank, the seller is required to disclose its existence and the current condition. This is important as it can affect the property's environmental safety and potential liability for cleanup. Question 54. What are the key considerations in Florida when a real estate transaction involves a foreign buyer or seller? A. Foreign buyers and sellers are not allowed in Florida. B. currency exchange rates, and FIRPTA. Foreign Investment in Real Property Tax Act. Implications. C. Only U.S. citizens can buy waterfront properties. D. No special considerations are necessary. Answer. B. Currency exchange rates and FIRPTA. Foreign Investment in Real Property Tax Act. Implications. Explanation. In Florida, real estate transactions involving foreign buyers or sellers require consideration of currency exchange rates and compliance with FIRPTA regulations, which may require withholding of taxes from the sale proceeds of foreign sellers. Question 55. Explain the concept of marketable title in Florida real estate law. A. Title that is free from lines and legal questions. B. The most popular type of title insurance. C. A title that guarantees the highest property value. D. A title that can be marketed and sold to anyone. Answer. A. Title that is free from lines and legal questions. Explanation. In Florida real estate law, marketable title refers to a title that is free from significant lines, disputes, or legal questions, making it readily transferable to a new owner without the risk of future claims or litigation. Question 56. Scenario. A commercial tenant in Florida wants to terminate their lease early. What are the potential legal consequences and options? A. They can leave without consequences. B. Financial penalties or fulfillment of lease terms, negotiation for early termination. C. Immediate eviction and blacklisting. D. Double the remaining rent as a penalty. Answer. B. Financial penalties or fulfillment of lease terms, negotiation for early termination. Explanation. A commercial tenant in Florida seeking to terminate their lease early may face financial penalties or be held to the fulfillment of the lease terms. However, they may negotiate with the landlord for early termination, potentially involving a buyout or finding a replacement tenant. Question 57. How does Florida law regulate dual agency in real estate transactions? A. Dual agency is commonly practiced. B. Dual agency is illegal. Transaction brokerage is allowed. C. Requires special licensing. D. Allowed only in commercial transactions. Answer. B. Dual agency is illegal. Transaction brokerage is allowed. Explanation. Florida law prohibits dual agency, where a real estate agent represents both the buyer and seller in the same transaction. Instead, Florida allows transaction brokerage, where the agent facilitates the transaction without representing either party. Question 58. What is the significance of a property being in a community development district, CDD, in Florida? A. It increases property taxes significantly. B. Properties in CDDs are exempt from state taxes. C. Special assessments for infrastructure and maintenance of community facilities. D. Mandatory membership in homeowners associations. Answer. C. Special assessments for infrastructure and maintenance of community facilities. Explanation. Properties in a community development district, CDD, in Florida are subject to special assessments. These assessments fund the infrastructure development and maintenance of community facilities and amenities, such as roads, utilities, and recreational areas. Question 59. Describe the legal process for evicting a tenant in Florida. A. Tenants can be evicted without notice. B. Legal notice followed by court proceedings if necessary. C. Eviction only on non-payment of rent. D. Landlords can personally remove tenants' belongings. Answer. B. Legal notice followed by court proceedings if necessary. Explanation. The legal process for evicting a tenant in Florida involves providing the tenant with a legal notice, such as for non-payment of rent or lease violations. If the tenant does not comply, the landlord can proceed with court action to legally remove the tenant. Question 60. Scenario. A Florida beachfront property owner wants to build a seawall. What coastal construction regulations must be considered? A. No regulations. The owner can build freely. B. Mandatory state approval and adherence to environmental impact standards. C. Only local community approval is needed. D. Seawalls are prohibited on beachfront properties. Answer. B. Mandatory state approval and adherence to environmental impact standards. Explanation. In Florida, constructing a seawall on beachfront property requires state approval and compliance with specific regulations designed to minimize environmental impact. These regulations ensure that coastal construction does not adversely affect beach erosion, sea turtle habitats, or other environmental factors. Question 61. What legal protections are afforded to buyers under the Florida Condominium Act? A. Right to a 10-day inspection period. B. Full disclosure of the condominium association's financial health and governance. C. Automatic warranty for all appliances in the condominium. D. No specific protections under this act. Answer. B. Full disclosure of the condominium association's financial health and governance. Explanation. The Florida Condominium Act provides protections to buyers, including the requirement for full disclosure about the condominium association's financial health, governance documents, and rules. This ensures that buyers are fully informed about the community they are investing in. Question 62. Explain the significance of severable rights in Florida real estate. A. Rights to sever ties with a real estate agent at any time. B. The division of property into separate units for sale. C. The ability to sell or lease surface, mineral, or air rights separately from the land. D. Special rights for severing joint tenancies. Answer. C. The ability to sell or lease surface, mineral, or air rights separately from the land. Explanation. Severable rights in Florida real estate refer to the ability of a property owner to sell or lease different aspects of the property, such as surface rights, mineral rights, or air rights, separately from the land itself. This allows for diverse utilization of the property. Question 63. Scenario. A buyer in Florida purchases a property at an auction only to discover a lien against it. What are their options? A. Cancel the purchase and receive a refund. B. Negotiate with the lien holder for a reduced payoff. C. Pay off the lien to clear the title. D. Transfer the lien to the previous owner. Answer. C. Pay off the lien to clear the title. Explanation. When a buyer in Florida purchases a property with an existing lien, they typically need to pay off the lien to clear the title. It is important to conduct due diligence before purchasing at auction to avoid unexpected liens and encumbrances. Question 64. How do Florida's laws address property boundary disputes? A. Boundary disputes are resolved by local law enforcement. B. Through court action or mediation based on deeds and surveys. C. No legal resolution, left to the property owners to resolve. D. Automatically resolved in favor of the newer property owner. Answer. B. Through court action or mediation based on deeds and surveys. Explanation. Property boundary disputes in Florida are typically resolved through legal means, such as court action or mediation. Resolution is based on property deeds, surveys, and historical use, providing a legal framework to settle disputes. Question 65. What are the consequences of practicing real estate without a license in Florida? A. A warning for the first offense. B. Mandatory real estate training. C. Legal penalties including fines and possible criminal charges. D. Temporary suspension of property rights. Answer. C. Legal penalties including fines and possible criminal charges. Explanation. Practicing real estate without a license in Florida can result in severe legal consequences, including fines and possible criminal charges. It is a violation of state law and is taken seriously to protect consumers from unqualified practitioners. Question 66. Scenario. A Florida homeowner discovers an unknown easement that limits property use. How might they challenge or modify this easement? A. Through a community vote. B. By filing a lawsuit or negotiating with the easement holder. C. automatically voids after property transfer. D. Cannot be challenged or modified. Answer: B. By filing a lawsuit or negotiating with the easement holder. Explanation: if a Florida homeowner discovers an unknown easement that limits their property use, they can challenge or seek to modify it by filing a lawsuit or negotiating with the easement holder for its release or alteration, depending on the terms of the easement and its impact on the property. Question 67. Describe the process for a real estate license applicant who has a criminal record in Florida. A. Automatic disqualification from obtaining a license. B. Review by the FREC, considering the nature of the crime and rehabilitation evidence. C. Only minor offenses are reviewed. Major offenses lead to disqualification. D. Criminal records are not considered in licensing. Answer: B. Review by the FREC, considering the nature of the crime and rehabilitation evidence. Explanation: in Florida, an applicant for a real estate license with a criminal record will have their application reviewed by the Florida Real Estate Commission, FREC. The review process considers the nature and severity of the crime, the time elapsed since the offense, and evidence of rehabilitation. Question 68. What constitutes a breach of contract in a real estate transaction in Florida, and what remedies are available? A. Breach occurs only if the buyer fails to pay. B. Failure by any party to fulfill contract terms. Remedies include damages or specific performance. C. Only applies to sellers not providing clear title. D. Breach is not recognized in Florida real estate law. Answer: B. Failure by any party to fulfill contract terms. Remedies include damages or specific performance. Explanation: a breach of contract in a Florida real estate transaction occurs when any party fails to fulfill their contractual obligations. Remedies for a breach include seeking damages for any financial loss or a court order for specific performance to enforce the contract terms. Question 69. Scenario: a real estate agent in Florida fails to disclose their relationship with a property seller. What are the ethical and legal implications? A. Considered good business practice. B. Loss of commission from the sale. C. Ethical violation and potential legal action for conflict of interest. D. No implications as long as the sale is completed. Answer: C. Ethical violation and potential legal action for conflict of interest. Explanation: failure to disclose a personal or business relationship with a property seller is both an ethical violation and a potential legal issue in Florida. It can be seen as a conflict of interest, leading to disciplinary action by the FREC and possible legal action by the buyer. Question 70. How does Florida law address the conversion of rental properties into condominiums? A. Rental properties cannot be converted into condominiums. B. Requires notice to tenants and adherence to specific legal procedures. C. Instant conversion without tenant notification. D. Only allowed in certain cities. Answer: B. Requires notice to tenants and adherence to specific legal procedures. Explanation: Florida law regulates the conversion of rental properties into condominiums by requiring landlords to provide adequate notice to tenants and follow specific legal procedures. This ensures tenants' rights are protected during the conversion process. Question 71. Explain the concept and implications of homestead exemption in Florida property taxes. A. Automatic exemption from all property taxes. E. Reduction in taxable value for primary residences, lowering property taxes. C. Exemption only for properties over 10 acres. D. A one-time tax credit for new homeowners. Answer: B. Reduction in taxable value for primary residences, lowering property taxes. Explanation: the homestead exemption in Florida property taxes allows homeowners to reduce the taxable value of their primary residence, resulting in lower property taxes. This exemption is a significant benefit for Florida residents, providing financial relief on their primary homes. Question 72. What are the key factors considered in a real estate market analysis in Florida? A. Only the property's age and size. B. Property location, current market trends, and comparable sales. C. The seller's financial status. D. Statewide property values only. Answer. B. Property location, current market trends, and comparable sales. Explanation. In conducting a real estate market analysis in Florida, key factors include the property's location, current market trends, and comparable sales in the area. This analysis helps determine a property's market value and informs pricing strategies. Question 73. Scenario. A real estate investment trust, REIT, is considering purchasing a portfolio of properties in Florida. What are the special considerations for REITs in the state? A. REITs are exempt from property taxes in Florida. B. Special zoning permissions for REIT-owned properties. C. Compliance with federal REIT regulations and consideration of state-specific real estate laws. D. REITs can only invest in residential properties. Answer. C. Compliance with federal REIT regulations and consideration of state-specific real estate laws. Explanation. For REIT considering property investments in Florida, it's essential to comply with federal REIT regulations and consider Florida-specific real estate laws, including taxation, zoning, and land use regulations. This ensures the REIT operates legally and effectively in the state's real estate market. Question 74. Describe the impact of flood zones on real estate transactions in Florida. A. Flood zones have no impact on transactions. B. Higher insurance costs and mandatory flood risk disclosures. C. Automatic reduction in property value. D. Only affects coastal properties. Answer. B. Higher insurance costs and mandatory flood risk disclosures. Explanation. Properties located in flood zones in Florida can significantly impact real estate transactions. Buyers must be informed about the flood risk, which can lead to higher insurance costs and influence the decision-making process due to the potential risks and costs associated with flooding. Question 75. What are the regulations surrounding real estate advertising in Florida? A. No regulations or guidelines. B. Must include the agent's license number in all advertisements. C. Advertisements must be truthful, non-misleading, and identify the licensee's professional status. D. Only digital advertising is regulated. Answer. C. Advertisements must be truthful, non-misleading, and identify the licensee's professional status. Explanation. Florida regulations require that real estate advertisements be truthful, not misleading, and clearly identify the licensee's professional status. For example, licensed real estate agent or broker. This ensures that consumers receive accurate information and can identify the professional behind the ad. Question 76. Scenario. A Florida property owner is delinquent on their mortgage payments. What foreclosure processes apply? A. Immediate seizure of the property by the bank. B. A judicial foreclosure process, including a court filing and potential sale at auction. C. Automatic transfer of property to the state. D. The lender must forgive the debt. Answer. B. A judicial foreclosure process, including a court filing and potential sale at auction. Explanation. In Florida, if a property owner is delinquent on mortgage payments, the lender typically initiates a judicial foreclosure process. This involves filing a lawsuit in court, and if the court rules in favor of the lender, the property may be sold at auction to recover the owed amount. Question 77. Explain the differences between a general line and a specific line in Florida real estate. A. General lines are for all properties owned. Specific lines are for one specific property. B. No difference in Florida law. C. General lines are only for commercial properties. Specific lines for residential. D. Specific lines are court-ordered. General lines are voluntary. Answer: A. General lines are for all properties owned. Specific lines are for one specific property. Explanation: in Florida real estate, a general line affects all properties owned by an individual, such as those arising from unpaid taxes. A specific line is attached to one specific property, like a mortgage line or a mechanic's line for work done on that property. Question 78. What disclosures are required under Florida law when selling a property with known sinkhole activity? A. Disclosure of sinkhole activity is not required. B. Full disclosure of any known sinkhole activity and past repairs. C. Only if the sinkhole is currently active. D. Disclosure of sinkholes in the surrounding area. Answer: B. Full disclosure of any known sinkhole activity and past repairs. Explanation: Florida law requires sellers to fully disclose any known sinkhole activity on the property and any repairs or remediation that have been undertaken. This is important as sinkholes can significantly affect the property's value and safety. Question 79. Scenario: a developer wants to build a new housing community in Florida. What zoning and land use regulations must be considered? A. No regulations, as Florida promotes unrestricted development. B. Statewide uniform building codes only. C. Local zoning laws, environmental regulations, and community plans. D. Only the aesthetic standards of the existing neighborhood. Answer: C. Local zoning laws, environmental regulations, and community plans. Explanation: a developer planning to build a new housing community in Florida must consider local zoning laws, which dictate land use and types of permissible structures. Additionally, environmental regulations and community master plans must be adhered to, ensuring compliance and integration with local planning objectives. Question 80. How are real estate commissions determined and regulated in Florida? A. Fixed by the Florida Real Estate Commission. B. Negotiable between the agent and client within industry standards. C. A standard percentage for all transactions. D. Set by the National Association of Realtors. Answer: B. Negotiable between the agent and client within industry standards. Explanation: real estate commissions in Florida are not fixed by law, but are negotiable between the agent and their client. While there are industry standards, the actual commission rate can vary based on agreement, market conditions, and the specifics of the real estate service provided. Question 81. What is the purpose of the Florida Real Estate Recovery Fund? A. To provide loans to first-time homebuyers. B. To compensate victims who have suffered due to the misconduct of a licensed real estate professional. C. To fund real estate education and research. D. To insure real estate properties against natural disasters. Answer: B. To compensate victims who have suffered due to the misconduct of a licensed real estate professional. Explanation: the Florida Real Estate Recovery Fund is designed to provide financial compensation to individuals who have suffered monetary damages due to the unlawful actions or misconduct of a licensed real estate professional. Question 82. Explain the role of a property appraiser in Florida real estate transactions. A. To negotiate property prices between buyers and sellers. B. To assess the market value of a property for taxation purposes. C. To inspect properties for structural defects. D. To provide legal advice on property matters. Answer: B. To assess the market value of a property for taxation purposes. Explanation: in Florida, a property appraiser's primary role in real estate transactions is to assess the market value of a property. This valuation is crucial for determining property taxes and ensuring fair taxation based on current market conditions. Question 83. Scenario: a property in a Florida historic district is up for renovation. What specific regulations must the owner adhere to? A. Standard building codes only. B. No additional regulations for historic properties. C. Historic preservation guidelines and approval from relevant authorities. D. Only color and design restrictions. Answer: C. Historic preservation guidelines and approval from relevant authorities. Explanation: renovating a property in a Florida historic district requires adherence to specific historic preservation guidelines. The owner must obtain approval from relevant historic preservation authorities, ensuring that renovations maintain the property's historical integrity. Question 84. How does the Florida Green Building Coalition impact real estate development? A. Imposes a tax on non-green buildings. B. Provides certification for environmentally sustainable building practices. C. No impact on real estate development. D. Requires all buildings to be energy self-sufficient. Answer: B. Provides certification for environmentally sustainable building practices. Explanation: the Florida Green Building Coalition impacts real estate development by offering certification programs that promote environmentally sustainable building practices. These certifications encourage developers to adopt greener building methods and materials. Question 85. What legal issues should be considered when dealing with a for sale by owner property in Florida? A. Ensuring compliance with disclosure requirements and contract legality. B. No special legal issues. It's the same as any other sale. C. The seller must hire a real estate agent. D. Mandatory state inspection before sale. Answer: A. Ensuring compliance with disclosure requirements and contract legality. Explanation: when dealing with a for sale by owner property in Florida, it's important to ensure that the seller complies with all legal disclosure requirements and that the sale contract is legally sound. Buyers may also need to conduct additional due diligence. Question 86. Scenario: a landlord in Florida is accused of violating the Fair Housing Act. What steps should they take to address this issue? A. Ignore the accusation as it's a federal matter. B. Immediately evict the complainant. C. Seek legal counsel and review property management practices. D. Offer a rent reduction to the complainant. Answer: C. Seek legal counsel and review property management practices. Explanation: if a landlord in Florida is accused of violating the Fair Housing Act, they should seek legal counsel to address the issue properly. It's also advisable to review property management practices to ensure compliance with fair housing laws. Question 87. Explain the impact of coastal erosion on beachfront property rights in Florida. A. Beachfront property owners can extend their properties into the sea. B. No impact. Property lines remain fixed. C. Potential loss of land and changes in property boundaries. D. State compensation for eroded land. Answer: C. Potential loss of land and changes in property boundaries. Explanation: coastal erosion can significantly impact beachfront property rights in Florida, potentially leading to the loss of land and changes in property boundaries. Property owners may face challenges in protecting their property while adhering to environmental regulations. Question 88. How do Florida laws address the disclosure of methamphetamine contamination in a property? A. Mandatory disclosure if contamination is known. B. No requirement to disclose. C. Disclosure only required for properties in urban areas. D. Only if contamination occurred within the past year. Answer: A. Mandatory disclosure if contamination is known. Explanation: Florida laws require sellers to disclose known methamphetamine contamination in a property. This is crucial as such contamination can pose significant health risks and require costly remediation. Question 89. Scenario: a tenant in Florida discovers their rental property is in foreclosure. What are their rights? A. They must vacate the property immediately. B. Rights to remain in the property until the end of the lease or for 90 days, whichever is longer. C. The tenant can purchase the property at a discount. D. No rights. The foreclosure process overrides tenancy rights. Answer: B. Rights to remain in the property until the end of the lease or for 90 days, whichever is longer. Explanation. In Florida, if a tenant discovers that their rental property is in foreclosure, they generally have the right to remain in the property until the end of their lease term or for 90 days after receiving a notice to vacate, whichever is longer, under the Federal Protecting Tenants at Foreclosure Act. Question 90. What are the requirements for obtaining a commercial real estate license in Florida? A. Same as a residential real estate license. B. No specific license for commercial real estate. C. Additional certification and higher education. D. Only available to Florida residents. Answer. A. Same as a residential real estate license. Explanation. The requirements for obtaining a commercial real estate license in Florida are the same as those for a residential real estate license. There is no separate license category for commercial real estate. Licensed real estate professionals can handle both residential and commercial transactions. Question 91. Explain the significance of the Florida Building Code on residential properties. A. Sets aesthetic design standards. B. Provides guidelines for energy efficiency only. C. Establishes minimum construction and safety standards. D. No impact on residential properties. Answer. C. Establishes minimum construction and safety standards. Explanation. The Florida Building Code significantly impacts residential properties by establishing minimum construction and safety standards. These standards ensure that homes are built to withstand local environmental conditions, particularly hurricanes, and provide a safe living environment. Question 92. What factors determine property tax exemptions in Florida? A. Property size and age. B. Exemptions based on homeowners' income level. C. Homestead status, disability, veteran status, and other qualifying conditions. D. No property tax exemptions in Florida. Answer. C. Homestead status, disability, veteran status, and other qualifying conditions. Explanation. Property tax exemptions in Florida are determined by several factors, including homestead status, which provides a significant reduction in taxable value for primary residences. Additional exemptions may be available for individuals with disabilities, veterans, and other qualifying conditions. Question 93. Scenario. A real estate agent in Florida is involved in a dual agency situation. What disclosures are required? A. No disclosures necessary as dual agency is common. B. Full disclosure and written consent from both parties. C. Only disclose to the seller. D. Dual agency is illegal in Florida. Answer. D. Dual agency is illegal in Florida. Explanation. Dual agency, where an agent represents both the buyer and seller in the same transaction, is illegal in Florida. Instead, agents can act as transaction brokers, facilitating the deal without representing either party's interests. Question 94. Describe the process of obtaining a variance for a property in Florida. A. Applying to the local zoning board with justification for the variance. B. Automatic approval with a fee. C. No variances are allowed in Florida. D. Variances are only for commercial properties. Answer. A. Applying to the local zoning board with justification for the variance. Explanation. To obtain a variance for a property in Florida, the property owner must apply to the local zoning board. The application must include a justification for why the variance is needed, typically due to unique property characteristics or hardships that make compliance with existing zoning regulations impractical. Question 95. How are water rights managed and regulated in Florida? A. All water rights are owned by the state. B. Based on the riparian rights doctrine, allowing reasonable use of adjacent water bodies. C. No regulation of water rights. D. Water rights are sold separately from the land. Answer. B. Based on the riparian rights doctrine, allowing reasonable use of adjacent water bodies. Explanation. In Florida, water rights are managed and regulated based on the riparian rights doctrine. This allows property owners adjacent to water bodies reasonable use of the water, such as for irrigation or recreation, while ensuring that use does not adversely affect other users or the environment. Question 96. Scenario. A buyer in Florida discovers that their new home is in a sinkhole-prone area, which was not disclosed. What legal actions can they pursue? A. No legal actions, as sinkholes are common in Florida. B. Sued for non-disclosure and seek damages or rescission of the sale. C. Request a government subsidy for sinkhole insurance. D. Mandatory arbitration only. Answer. B. Sue for non-disclosure and seek damages or rescission of the sale. Explanation. If a buyer in Florida discovers that their new home is in a sinkhole-prone area, and this was not disclosed, they can pursue legal action against the seller. This may include suing for non-disclosure, seeking damages for the diminished value of the property, or rescission of the sale. Question 97. Explain the concept of net listing in Florida real estate and its legal status. A. A listing agreement where the agent keeps all proceeds above a set price. B. Illegal in Florida due to the potential for conflicts of interest. C. The most common type of listing in Florida. D. Required for all commercial property sales. Answer. B. Illegal in Florida due to the potential for conflicts of interest. Explanation. Net listing agreements, where the real estate agent keeps all proceeds above a set price agreed upon with the seller, are illegal in Florida. This type of agreement creates a potential conflict of interest, as it may incentivize agents to prioritize their profit over the seller's best interest. Question 98. What are the responsibilities of a Florida real estate agent in a transaction involving a short sale? A. To ensure the property sells for the highest price. B. Facilitating communication between buyer, seller, and lender, and ensuring all parties are informed. C. Only to represent the buyer in negotiations. D. Real estate agents are not involved in short sales in Florida. Answer. B. Facilitating communication between buyer, seller, and lender, and ensuring all parties are informed. Explanation. In a short sale transaction in Florida, the real estate agent's responsibilities include facilitating communication between the buyer, seller, and the lender. They must ensure that all parties are well informed about the process, terms, and conditions of the sale, and assist in navigating the complexities of the transaction. Question 99. Scenario. A property owner in Florida wants to convert their residence into a vacation rental. What regulations must be considered? A. No regulations, as property owners have full discretion. B. Local zoning laws, HOA rules if applicable, and state licensing requirements. C. Only state health and safety regulations. D. Mandatory conversion to a timeshare. Answer. B. Local zoning laws, HOA rules if applicable, and state licensing requirements. Explanation. Converting a residence into a vacation rental in Florida requires compliance with local zoning laws, which may have specific provisions for short-term rentals. Additionally, if the property is part of an HOA, the owner must adhere to its rules. State licensing and health and safety regulations also apply to operating a vacation rental. Question 100. How does the Florida landlord-tenant law regulate security deposits and their return? A. Security deposits are optional and unregulated. B. Requires holding security deposits in a separate non-interest-bearing account and returning them within 15 days of lease termination. C. Immediate return of the deposit upon tenant request. D. Landlords can use deposits as they wish. Answer. B. Requires holding security deposits in a separate non-interest-bearing account and returning them within 15 days of lease termination. Explanation. The Florida landlord-tenant law regulates security deposits by requiring landlords to hold them in a separate non-interest-bearing account. After lease termination, the landlord must return the deposit within 15 days if there are no damages, or provide a written notice of claim within 30 days if deductions are made for damages.